Brawlers is an easy A tier, amazing DPS installing with only problem being lack of hidden detection. Crook Boss is B tier, fairly underrated tower for beginners, can handle early to mid-game pretty well in a lot of situations. Commander is S tier, despite his shitty range he still provides immense support to most towers. Accelerator is A, pretty good DPS, but unfortunately outclassed by a lot of options, still usable however. I've been recently seeing way less Ace Pilot used in struts and everything but tower itself is still really good. B. D for Demoman, decent for beginners, but outclassed by nearly every other splash option. On the other hand, DJ is S tier for sure, amazing support with a great range. Electroshocker is B, good support with a lot of damage, great for fallen mode. Executioner goes in low B. I mean he is decent crowd controller, but he is really buggy and awkward to use. Nearly put it in C. Farm is still S. TDS is trying to limit farm usage by making game modes have less waves like in PW2. But it's still amazing in other game modes. Gatling Gun is also S tier. It's very expensive, but amazing crowd control in DPS tower and it's just fun to use. Harvester is C, she turned out to be incredibly average and even mediocre, too bad so sad. Medic also goes in C. With meta being filled with stun immune towers and enemies spamming stun before you can micro medic, she just can't do much. And her levels before level 5 are trash. Military base is high B. Amazing tower for beginners used in a lot of strategies and airstrike ability is sweet. Pursuit is S, hands down the best DPS tower, a lot of DPS, stun immune and pretty much infinite range, with missiles on top of that. The only problem is that bottom path is not good. Pyro goes in low B, it's decent crowd control with defense melting. Scout is trash, why would you use it? Sniper is also lackluster, at least he can do something I guess. Turret is a tier, primarily outclassed by lots of options, but pretty good tower outside of that. Archer goes in C, like maybe it's B, but I think a lot of options are still better in most of situations. Don't even know at this point. Golden Pyro is the same as Pyro, but better, and thus a tier higher. Militant is C, pretty impractical tower that does not offer anything new. Shotgunner is B. Not many people use him nowadays, but in my opinion pretty underrated early to mid-game tower. Can also be used to speedrun modes below Molten. Elementalist goes in low B, also fairly underrated tower that tries to be everything but is master in none. That's probably the reason why people don't use him much. Elf Camp is also B tier, very fun tower to use, and also provides solid sub DPS. However, it kinda falls off in harder game modes. Engineer goes in S tier. Second best DPS tower in my opinion, which does not take biggest damage from stuns thanks to Sentry Shield. The only real problem is that it doesn't really benefit from Commander like other DPS options do. Firework Technician is B tier, pretty good support tower that adds a lot of DPS and gives towers semi-crowd control. The only problems are terrible range and one placement limit, but that's just balancing you know. Unfortunately, after all of the power creep, Gladiator goes in C tier. There isn't really any game mode left that he can capitalize in, and Brawler overtook his speedrun niche, so he is left with nothing. All we can do is hope for rework. Golden Minigunner goes in B tier. He happens to get outclassed by everything DPS based that's not normal version of himself. He could get a buff in my opinion. Golden Scout goes in B. His speedrun job is taken by Brawler and others and he cannot do well outside of early game, which is pretty bad. He can get a buff as well. Hello Punk is D. I see no reason to use her as every other stalling option outclasses her. Slasher goes in low B, arguably C. He is outclassed by Brawler in every department besides hidden detection, and in my opinion costs too much. And Bleed's damage is way too low. Jester is B tier in my opinion. Really underrated stalling tower, like his ice bombs are actually so good on huge crowds. Unfortunately, most people forgot about him when he lost ability to confuse bosses. Normal Soldier goes in D tier. No use for him exists. Outcost, you know the drill. Frost Blaster goes in low B. Pretty decent freeze tower, but unfortunately faces massive competition from other tower, which is arguably better after the buff. Golden Soldier goes in high B. His usage fell off heavily thanks to Golden Crook Boss, which is objectively better than Soldier in almost everything. He even stole his flying detection. Mercenary base is A. Very good spawner. Tower X spawns really strong units, and if you manage to stack them, they will shred everything. The damage buff is appreciated as well. Mortar is high B. Very good splash damage option with a lot of DPS for explosive tower. but he has competition as of recently in form of reworked Rocketeer. Necromancer is a pretty underrated DPS option, though he has a lot of better competition. Commando is B, pretty weird tower that seems to try be sub DPS. Crowd control and stunner all at once, but turns out to be okay-ish in everything. He is also outclassed by the way. Swarmer received a bug rework, as you may know, so I'm putting it in C for now. The reason is that he only works if he is alone without other swarmers, and don't forget that his ability is still bad. And he still doesn't have hidden detection. Golden Crook boss goes in S. Amazing early to mid to even late game tower with both hidden and flying detection and summons to catch leaks. I use him all the time and you should too. Hunter goes in D. I mean, he is decent for beginners, but other than that he has no place in the meta. Minigunner goes in low B. He is your average DPS tower for beginners all TD games have. Outclassed by every other DPS option. Paintballer is trash, what else to say? Ranger is S obviously, used in 90% of strategies and covers almost all maps with his gigantic ranger and damage per hit. Cryomancer is high B, one of the better stalling towers out there. Sledger is A, amazing crowd control and deals a lot of damage, but suffers from lack of hidden detection. Freezer is B, arguably better than Frost Blaster and is actually a viable stalling option, even used in Hidden Wave for fallen tanks. Rocketeer is A, amazing crowd control, arguably better than Mortar. This kid is useless, don't use him or else you are a fraud. Toxic Gunner is C, his general stats are mid and his slowness is barely noticeable. Okay. Trapper is actually B tier, extremely good in fallen as early game and can do stalling in late game as well as crowd control. Warden is B, mainly outclassed by Brawler and therefore is not widely used, though he has hidden detection. Cowboy is low B, but it should probably be in C. He is outclassed by farm eco-wise and tower itself is just underwhelming. Finally, Golden Cowboy is low A. Really good eco though still doesn't reach farm level and tower itself actually deals decent damage. And these are all towers ranked. Thanks for watching and I see you next time.